Anyway, Congresswoman Stefanik is with us to talk about this. How is it even possible? How did these things ever occur?
Well, first of all, Sean, thank you for the opportunity to be on your show to talk about this important issue. This is why congressional oversight is so important. We have oversight over the agency's use of taxpayer dollars, and if it were not for this letter that I wrote with Ranking Member Michael McCall, who's the leading Republican House Foreign Affairs Committee. We wrote this letter January of last year, so it almost took 2 years for the Government Accountability Office to get back to us. But $28 million of funds we know of that went through NIH, CDC, and DOD to Chinese communist entities for research and development. Democrats have done nothing when it comes to oversight of our dollars. They've done nothing when it comes to the bottom of the origins of COVID, which we know all evidence points to coming from the lab in Wuhan. As you know, anyone who said that.
Well, let me ask a fundamental question. Why would the United States, under any circumstances, knowing China is a hostile regime led by a hostile actor, President Xi, why would we ever be giving them money for any type of research ever? I'm trying to understand the logic behind that.
There is no logic, and that number should be zero, Sean. That should be zero. China is not a partner. They are not an ally. They are not a friend. This is an adversary, and I believe that countering China will be one of the most greatest challenges that my generation faces.
It's the biggest geopolitical threat we have. Can you say, do you believe with certainty that taxpayer dollars funneled through the NIH to the Eco Alliance Group or project, in fact, funded gain of function research and coronavirus research that led to COVID-19? In other words, did we contribute financially to the creation of this virus?
Well, all evidence is pointing in that direction, Sean. And the NIH under Dr. Fauci was working overtime to cover that up. If it were not for Steve Scalise, who's the Republican whip, demanding these documents, demanding these emails, they would never have been transparent for the American people. This stinks to high heaven of a cover-up, and certainly Republicans will make sure that the subpoenas are issued if the documents are not turned over, if all emails are not turned over, and we will haul in the agency heads to testify under oath in front of Congress, because the American people absolutely deserve to know where every last cent of U.S. taxpayer dollars go. So am I very concerned that evidence is pointing in that direction? You bet I'm concerned, and I am going to stand up to stop any dollars going towards any type of partnership with the Chinese Communist Party for research and development or anything.
All right. So my next question is, what do you make of all of the monies that are being spent by Chinese nationals or shell corporations that they have in the United States, maybe partnerships with the U.S., but money that we know that is coming directly from the communist Chinese, and they're buying up massive amounts of farmland here in the U.S., massive numbers of ranches, and often the locations coincidentally happen to be right near our military bases. Why is that happening? And shouldn't we take those properties back? You can give them the money they paid for it back, but shouldn't the American government prevent that from happening? Isn't that a national security risk?
Yes, and that's why I've introduced legislation with Rick Crawford, who's from Arkansas, and we both serve on the House Intelligence Committee to stop that from happening. This is an issue that comes up from farmers in my district. It comes up. I represent a military installation at Fort Drum. I do sit on the House Armed Services Committee. So I'm both concerned about the national security implications of China purchasing up land surrounding our military bases, but also when it comes to food security. Food security is national security. It's economic security, and we need to make sure that we have strong U.S. agriculture. That means American-owned farmland. So similar to legislation in the past that has been put into a place to stop Chinese communist investments in businesses or tech companies, which that needs to be strengthened. We need to have a process in place to make sure that our ag farmland is not being sold to the Chinese Communist Party, because it's going to impact our food supply. And we need to make sure that we have a robust American-grown, American-produced food supply.
It's unbelievable, Congresswoman. Are you as convinced as I am that the communist Chinese, they're using the word reunification with Taiwan, but with all the hostilities constantly flying over Taiwan airspace, and outright saying that they're going to take Taiwan, do you believe that's going to happen? I believe it is.
I'm very, very concerned. And what I'm most concerned about, Sean, is China is watching this weak commander-in-chief in Joe Biden. Certainly they were watching when we had a strong commander-in-chief in President Trump. But there is a reason why this saber rattling and this very aggressive Chinese posture is taking place, because they see a weak president of the United States. And that is so important to make sure that we have a strong commander-in-chief come the 2024 election. It's also important that we make sure that we continue to invest our dollars to make sure that Taiwan has the defense capabilities to defend itself. That's an important partnership. They are an important ally, and those are important investments to make. Let's not forget, Sean, that it was under the Obama-Biden era that our national security was gutted with devastating defense cuts that impacted our modernization, that impact our military readiness. We are just now digging out of that because of the successful defense policies that we delivered under President Trump, only to have a now very weak commander-in-chief in Joe Biden. So I'm very, very concerned. This is one of the reasons why House Republicans will have a select China committee, because, as I said at the beginning of this interview, the issue of China is just the single greatest challenge that I think my generation is going to face when it comes to global politics.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, she is the chairwoman of the House GOP members. Thank you for being with us. 35 days till Election Day. How many seats do you believe Republicans have a shot at winning?
I think we have a historic election. If we pick up 35, that will be the largest majority since the Great Depression. I think the polls are underestimating the enthusiasm and Republican support. I think the mainstream media is working overtime to try to suppress Republican voters and boost Democratic turnout. But the fundamentals, just in terms of Joe Biden's failure, whether it's inflation, high energy prices, the border crisis, the American people are smart. They see that this is a result of one-party Democrat rule. So I'm thinking we can reach that 35 seats, if not more.
All right, Congresswoman, thanks for being with us. Keep us up to speed on this issue involving China. It is our number one geopolitical foe by far. Appreciate your time, and come back often. Quick break. We'll come back.